All right, let's talk Kansas City Chiefs. This is obviously, once again, one of the best teams in football. They've had a really solid offseason. Not a lot of headline grabbing moves, but across the board, pretty good for this Chiefs team as they look to return to the Super Bowl and go after yet another title in the middle of this Reed Mahomes dynasty. And you look at one key rookie the Chiefs selected. We've been talking about him a lot this offseason. He's been doing some good things, and he's caught the eye of an all-time great and NFL legend, which is obviously a great sign for the Chiefs. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, one of the things we look for on this channel, whether it's with the Chiefs, whether it's with one of the other teams we cover, rookies, veterans, it just doesn't really matter here. We look for smart guys who know football, know what they're talking about, guys who usually have played, the greats, the legends, like I say, who then speak out for a player and really just have no reason to do so other than to say, hey, this is what I think, right? They've got no skin in the game. It's not like they're best buddies with the player or anything like that. And that's what we saw recently with a report involving the young Chiefs first-round pick, left tackle Josh Simmons, and an all-time great at the center position, offensive lineman, guy who knows football, and that's Jason Kelce on, of course, his podcast that he does with his brother. Let's pull up this report here, then we'll go into some interesting data on the other side. This is courtesy of NBC Sports. Travis Kelce said on his New Heights podcast that Simmons stood in as a scout team defensive end during recent practice, and then he felt like, I got to come with it when Simmons put his hands on him. Okay, Simmons is strong. That's cool. Here's the most important part, though. Kelce's brother and co-host Jason knows quite a bit about playing the offensive line and said watching the tape of Simmons in college was absurd and made a lofty comparison when sharing what player the rookie resembled in that tape. I've watched a lot of these linemen coming out the last few years, Kelce said. This kid, talking about Josh Simmons, I mean, he is the closest thing I've seen to like a Trent Williams, right? The all-pro tackle, San Francisco, formerly of Washington, like that next level strength and athleticism. The only reason he fell to you guys is because of that injury. Obviously, this is incredibly high praise coming from Kelce here. You talk about a guy who knows football, an honest, straight shooter, right? That's basically his whole brand. Put Travis Kelce aside. When you look at Jason Kelce, he's known as, hey man, I call it as I see it, right? I'm an offensive lineman. I know offensive line football, obviously. He was an all-pro center for a number of years, worked with the great Lane Johnson in Philadelphia as well. So he knows offensive line better than me, obviously, better than 99.99% of people out there. And when he says this about Josh Simmons, folks, pay attention. This is incredibly high praise because Trent Williams is obviously no slouch. He's likely heading for the Hall of Fame. The fact that he believes Simmons is favors or compares very favorably to Trent Williams is a really great sign for the future of this young left tackle out of Ohio State. And that's where we get into some very interesting data when you look at the Chiefs position. Let's throw up our first chart here. Again, big Microsoft Excel channel. Always love pulling into the charts. So we took at the average Chiefs left tackle performance over the past 2 seasons. We looked at Trent Williams' performance last year just to give kind of a baseline here. And then we looked at an adjusted Josh Simmons performance. Now, Josh Simmons, of course, had his performance last year at the collegiate rank, so it's not really apples to apples. So we adjusted his performance down based to get it scored to compare favorably what we'd expect a drop off going from the last year at Ohio State to rookie left tackle, right? So this is not his exact numbers at Ohio State. This is adjusted downward to reflect a drop in performance that you would expect going from collegiate ranks to the National Football League. But you can see, again, looking at overall grade in blue, pass blocking grade in red, average Chiefs left tackle the last 2 years, not good, folks. Again, those grades right there, a little bit above 50. That ain't going to get it done. Chiefs fans, you obviously know that. It was a position of issue both in 2023 and in 2024. We can see Trent Williams, and this is why the Trent Williams comp is really good news. And Williams had kind of a down year last year. His numbers are significantly better. They're really elite kind of stuff. Overall pass blocking, right in the mid-80s. Again, Williams is heading into the Hall of Fame. But the adjusted Josh Simmons numbers, I think, is very interesting because his overall grade and pass blocking grade, again, adjusted downward, expecting a drop in performance transitioning to the National Football League, he is still significantly better than the average Chiefs left tackle over the past 2 years and not too far behind Trent Williams. So we look at a guy in Simmons who can come in year one. This is the expectations of Simmons year one and basically play significantly better than what the Chiefs had at left tackle over the past 2 seasons. Now, he still has to go out and prove it and do it, right? And this is why these numbers paired with what Kelce said, I think is really exciting because obviously the data points a picture, but can the kid go out there and produce? And if you look at what Kelce says and says, yeah, he's just as good as Trent Williams. He compares very favorably to that all-pro left tackle. That makes me think he will land pretty darn close to the adjusted numbers, maybe even better. And when you look at some advanced statistics when it comes to Simmons, you can see one of the reasons why Kelce's so excited. Let's go ahead and pull up our next chart here. I know we've showed this a few weeks ago, but I want to circle back to this. If you look at Simmons compared to the top tackles in the draft class and look at the pressures allowed percentage, he's better than all of them, right? And again, these are great tackles, so the pressures allowed percentage is very, 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 very small, right? All of these guys are basically 98% not giving up pressures or better. But Simmons is significantly better than all of them. He's 99.7% in terms of basically one pressure surrendered in 300-ish pass blocking reps last season. Absolutely bonkers stuff. Let's go into our next chart. How about pressures allowed percentage in true pass sets? Again, Josh Simmons, one pressure in roughly 100 true pass set situations. 99 times he didn't give up a pressure, one time he did. This is bonkers data. And again, he's better than all of the other tackles in the draft. Connerly's really good. Ozzie Trapillo's really covered. We covered him for the Bears. And of course, Will Campbell out of LSU, phenomenal tackle. Simmons was better last year than all these guys. This is what Kelce is talking about. This is what the data is supporting. And this is why the Chiefs are so excited in the fact that he's going to be full go for training camp, because his potential, his ceiling, his comp, when healthy, is the best tackle in the draft, like Trent Williams was when he came out of college in 2010. This is, again, the Chiefs, why they're so excited. This is what Kelce is talking about here, saying, listen, compares very favorably to Trent Williams, his athleticism, his blocking ability. He is that good. His data in college, the advanced analytics, was at an elite top 5, top 8 level. The Chiefs got him at the very end of the first round. Not only was it a position of need, but it's clearly a massive steal. And the fact that he's healthy and ready to go is just another great sign for the Kansas City Chiefs and their young left tackle. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. Do a bunch of stuff at you. But first, Chiefs fans, in the comment section below, we're talking offensive linemen. We're talking left tackles here, but we're talking the entire offensive line. So let me ask you guys this question. Who is the greatest offensive lineman in Kansas City Chiefs history? There's a lot of really great ones. I remember those early 2000s teams blocking for those Priest Holmes 2003 kind of era Kansas City Chiefs. Great offensive lines. I mean, a lot of great players, but you can only pick one. In the comment section below, give us your opinion, the greatest Chiefs offensive lineman of all time. Want to hear from you guys, and make sure you sign up for our free Substack weekly newsletter. We put a link to it in the description below. It's also in the comment section. Again, 100% free. Get some extra content for you guys. Really appreciate it. Again, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So make sure you subscribe. But Mize, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest news involving Kansas City?
Yeah, Nick, I know we talk about Simmons a lot of this just because that's how good he is. He keeps impressing everybody. Anytime he steps on the field, he's getting back into the swing of things, and people are just really impressed with every single thing he does. So I think we're excited. I think Chiefs fans should be excited about this guy, what he brings to the field, because this is a Kansas City team that last year, obviously, they made it to the Super Bowl. Let's just focus on that part. But you look at what they did at the Super Bowl with the 17th ranked pass blocking team in the NFL. So I think that's a key here. If you can upgrade the offensive line, if you can upgrade the tackle position and upgrade your pass blocking grade with a guy like Simmons, obviously he's going to be able to do that. He's going to give you some upgrade, especially a long-term future at that position as well. There's really special stuff going on. And I think this is good. And I think not just pundits. Jason Kelce, fantastic. One of the best as far as one of the smartest offensive linemen I think we've seen ever in this league. Saying things like that, I think it's good. But when you hear from Simmons' teammates as well, they're also really impressed. And they kind of mimic not just Travis Kelce teammates as far as other offensive linemen on this team. They mimic kind of the same sentiment that Jason Kelce did as well. And you look at what Trey Smith had to say. He goes, man, this guy, he's so strong. He's unbelievably strong, and the talent is there as well, man. So, again, another high praises. Everyone's talked about how strong this guy is. Everyone's talked about how talented he is. I think this guy is something that is going to be special for this Kansas City Chiefs team. And like I said, this is a Chiefs team that it's good. That with Patrick Mahomes, with the weapons that they have, and with the defense that they have, they're just the key star players they have all over the ball. This is a team that is poised with the coaching of Andy Reid to make it to the Super Bowl. All they need to do is get incrementally better at certain positions, and this was one of the big ones. They need to fix offensive line, bring in a guy like Simmons, showing that, hey, this guy's great at pass blocking. One pressure and 100 is insane. The fact that this guy doesn't leak anybody by, he's a lockdown guy in the pass blocking game. I think it's going to be huge for the Chiefs. If they even get into, the mid teens, if this jumps them from 17th to like 12, I think this is a team that's going to be much better suited, not just make it to the Super Bowl, but again, go back and win. So I think this team is set up really, really well. The addition of Simmons is a really good addition for this team. And I think we're going to see a lot of improvement, just incremental improvements for the Chiefs, who are already a Super Bowl ready team, is going to put them over the edge. And I think the addition of a guy like this in Simmons is going to be just that.
Yeah, and these things have compounding effects, right? Obviously, Xavier Worthy, for example, going to year two, expecting him to take a big leap, big play receiver, big play potential. How do you help Xavier Worthy take that next leap? You give a little bit better pass protection to Patrick Mahomes, like you said, doesn't have to be incredibly massive, just a little bit better, incrementally better. Suddenly, Mahomes has a split second longer. Suddenly, throws deep to Xavier Worthy more. Suddenly, Xavier Worthy breaks out and becomes a superstar, right? These things build off of each other, right? The compounding effect really matters, especially in the complex world of football where so many things happen on every single play. If you get just a hair better at pass protection, a hair better at blocking, suddenly your quarterback looks better, suddenly your receivers look better, right? It all works together, it all melts together. And like you said, getting incrementally better at a key position. I won't necessarily a position of weakness. All the left tackle was before Thuney moved over there, kind of settled it down. But really getting better and more stable at that position going forward will be critical for Kansas City to have those compounding effects, like I mentioned. And one of the things, though, when it comes to Simmons, and obviously he had the injury at Ohio State that had him basically slide in the draft to where he did at Kansas City at pick number 32. But the one knock on him that was so interesting was like, he's got average strength, right? If you look at the scouting report according to NFL.com, this is where his top weaknesses. He says upper body strength appears to be average. Would like to see a little more pop on contact. If you listen to what Travis Kelce said, if you listen to what Trey Smith said, like you brought up, he actually has elite strength. He's a very powerful, very strong guy. And sometimes this can happen during the draft process. You have these evaluations, these scouts, these analysts, both in the media and on teams. They look at a player, they look at his film, and they think, he's just not very strong. But one of the things you never know is like a guy like Simmons in this case could have been dealing with a pec injury or could have been taught to block a certain way that didn't utilize his strength, whatever it may be. There's all of these factors behind the scenes where he actually is really strong and that he can be unleashed at the next level. We see this all the time with guys that play a certain way in college. I'm like, he's just not very good. And then, or this area, he's not very good. Then goes to the NFL and he's great at that. Like, what happens? Like, well, maybe he was hurt in college. Maybe he was coached a certain way in college, right? You don't know those factors. And they go to the NFL, they can surprise to the upside. And basically what we're seeing from Smith and what we're hearing also from Travis Kelce, obviously paired to what Jason Kelce is saying in terms of the Trent Williams comparison, is that he is a strong dude. And remember, that was his biggest weakness. The biggest concern with Simmons was, would he be ready to play this season, right? Injury concerns. That's been mitigated. His biggest weakness as a football player was that he was not strong enough. He was not powerful enough. That's clearly been wiped away by the comments. And of course, his potential as a pass protector has always been there. And now you factor in these comments from Jason Kelce saying, listen, the whole package, he's Trent Williams 2.0. Chiefs fans, you guys have to be really excited. You should be over the moon. Again, I'll put the caveat we do on every single one of these videos. It's early. We haven't even gotten to training camp yet. There's still preseason, of course, regular season. A lot of things could happen. I get it. But from what we've hearing and what we've seen from Simmons so far, both people inside the organization that have skin in the game and people outside the organization like Kelce. Again, Jason Kelce, he would not put his butt online saying, hey, look, he reminds me of Trent Williams, unless he really believed it, right? Obviously, his brother plays for Kansas City, but look, he's got no vested interest in the Chiefs, right? He doesn't personally, make money or anything if Simmons goes on to do poorly or do well. He says this because he's a straight shooter, honest, truly believes it. And look, I believe him. He knows football. He knows offensive line play better than just about anybody. All of this put together, all of this corroborating evidence, as we like to say, clearly point to that the Chiefs got a special player in this young tackle at pick 32.